el siguiente programa.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone, here in Tacoma, Washington State. The show Siembra, here, Yasmin Ford, your host, and in the other side of the screen, I have my co-host, Pastor Dennis. Yes, we started a little late today, but you know, we plan stuff, and God is the one that decides. This is the perfect time for the show to start. So, more than anything, I wanted to say today is Sunday. Have a little bit. Sunday, October 23rd. And a beautiful morning. It's cold. It's chilly. We finally feeling the winter, the fall weather. You know, the trees are turning really beautiful and we have sun. But when you go outside, it's kind of chilly. You need your coat. So everybody put on their coat. Drink your coffee. Have your little cup of coffee. And we're going to start our show this morning. But more than anything, I wanted to just say that we celebrating 5 years in this radio station, VTRU Radio Universal. And we're going to have a little celebration later on. So... and we're excited just to see how far, you know, this project, Christian Lopez Moreno project, 5 years. And I've been sitting here for 3 years, I think. Yes. So very excited about this. Also, voting. I want to encourage everybody to go out and vote. This is the last week that we have to make a decision and to make sure we be part of this process. And I know that every year we said this is the election that's going to determine the future of the democratic project that is the United States of America. So we want to encourage everyone to go out and vote wisely, not against your interests, and especially Spanish people that can vote, be part of this process, because then we can't complain and say, well, I don't like this or I don't like that, because you're not part of the process. And I'd like to talk a little bit about world things that happening. I know that in Haiti, we talk a lot about Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine, but also right here in the islands, Caribbean islands, Haiti is going through some hardships. It has a pandemic of cholera and also a political unrest. So we want to pray and we want to bring what's going on around the world front line, not just Ukraine, you know, but there is things happening in other part of the world. It shocks me that the UN is deciding is they going to intervene or not to help the Asian people. It's just shocking to me is that they're thinking why, you know, they want to spend that money or not, while they are spending billions of dollars sending it to Ukraine. I just gonna leave that little note there for people to think about it. You know, so Pastor Dennis, good morning. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you today?
I'm fine. A beautiful morning, kind of cold, chilly, but you know, I love this weather because this weather makes you want to just stay in your bed and drink coffee and don't move and do anything.
That's for sure.
Yes.
Or I'm on the beach.
Yes, you on the beach. So we was talking back and forth the week to see what we wanted to talk about, and we definitely wanted to talk about voting. But me being not from here, I was born in Panama, Afro-Latina, and I was thinking in Florida, my brother lives in Florida, and just the way he thinks about everything is so different. We like opposite poles, completely different. And I was asking myself what it is in Florida that immigrant people are voting against their own interests. And we started debating about, and me and you started having that conversation, because the big community, Cuban community in Florida is mostly Republicans. And now I was reading, there's 3 different tiers of Cubans that came into the United States. We have the Cubans that came in 1959, that those the wealthy elite people, and then we have the lower ones that came in the 1990s and late 80s. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the influence of classism in voting and also in politics. And we was talking about what happened just a couple weeks ago with the consul in California, Nuri Martinez, and her 3 other of the consuls. They got recorded talking, condescending about Mexican people, and they're Mexican, and you can clearly see the divide of class and racism even within our own race. And how is that divide, how people vote according to that too. How people relate to the parties according to the race and the class. And I was reading about that most people, there's an elite group, also low income people that are claimed to be, and Hispanic that claim to be Democrats. Then we have another tier of the rural, that they call this a Republican. So how do you talk a lot about tribalism. And I'm thinking about that too. So let's get in and talk a little bit about, we had this lady talking about the indigenous Mexican, that Mexico is 80% indigenous, 90% indigenous. Most of the people, and we see the disconnection when you look at the TV and when you look at the telenovelas, and when you look at the news, you see the people that are in front of the TV, they are white descendant, and then when here in the United States, the most of the people that me and you know and work with and have this social interaction look more indigenous. And she was talking about this group of people that live in California. And she mentioned the Hispanics from, I don't want to say the wrong name, Oaxaca? No, Oaxaca, no. Oh, Oaxaca. Oh, my God. Oaxaca. Osaka is Japan. Yes. And to see another Mexican person, talking so condescending about her own people, it wasn't shocking. But you see the divide, you see the disconnection, you see the color divide and the class divide within us. And how that influenced the way we vote and the way and we relate to whichever party.
Yeah, it's sad. Both racism and classism both have the belief that some people are better or favored by God over others, and this idea that God has entrusted those better people with more and more power, and and God designed it that way.
Yeah. And religion has a lot to do with it. A lot to do with it, yes.
Yeah. Even with in Europe, there is a divide between the Northern Europeans and the Southern Europeans.
And we're talking about England and the Irish community, all of that, they also have that divide within.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Scandinavian people, the Germanic Scandinavian people, are viewed as superior to the Italians and the Spaniards, and uh, people from Turkey. All that. It's bizarre, but it's. I think it's all about competition. It's a sense of scarcity of resources that somehow I deserve access to resources when they're scarce over you.
And,
you know what I'm saying?
And I was thinking, when you said that about the church, I was thinking about the Israelites and the Jewish community. And there's a big thing going on right now here in the United States with the ex-president and also with Kanye West and the Jewish community. And I know I might say something that people are not going to be happy. But in a way, I have to agree with them in a way. I mean, the Jewish community runs a lot of powerful, and they have a lot of power in this country. And not only in this country. In Panama, the Jewish community are very powerful. Very, very powerful, So certain things that they said I agree with. And again, we go back to that you saying that the Christian community look at the Jewish people as the chosen one. They are the ones that deserve, and they are blessed. It's this entitlement that you get from God that you are the chosen one. That's why you're doing so well, right?
Right. Well, I think there's a difference when we're talking about the power of the Jewish community. The Jewish community is beholden to the Christian community. If the Christian community accepts them and embraces them, which in the U.S., mm-hmm. the fundamentalists have come to do that, mainly because of their views of end times, less than their embracing of them as an ethnicity. Mm-hmm. We have a dominionist or a post-trib theology that has consumed the Western fundamentalist church, that believes that in order for anything to happen good for the Christian community, the Jews, what is promised to the Jews has to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so out of necessity, they've had to embrace the Jewish people so that they can get their due, so that Christians can get what's promised to them. So there's a contingency that has been sold in the fundamentalist world that has forced an acceptance of Jews. But yes. Even then, it has everything to do with religious views and nothing to do with the value of the human themselves. And so we see, even in the U.S., we value the Jews in Israel over the Jews that live in the U.S. because the Jews in the U.S. are too progressive for us, for the fundamentalist church.
Well, and one of the things that there's nothing wrong that the Jewish community in Israel can do. I mean, right now, what's going on with the Palestinians and the Israel, and you hear the church just like it's okay. What's going on? I said no, it's not. It can't be okay. I don't think God said, well, okay, you need to treat people. I don't know. It drives me crazy for people to think that God is, we make God our own image instead of
Right.
believing that he is a God of love and a God that he created everything. He value everything that he created, but I think we were talking about classism, right? And we were talking about why it is that the Spanish community, a lot of the Spanish community, and I was reading most of the Spanish community in the United States overall lean to Democrats. The lean. The little bit of the I would say 24, 25, 30% of the Spanish community that claim to be Republicans. And right now there is, I don't know if it's true, I don't know if it's fact, but they're saying there's more people in the Spanish community leaning or switching or just going in the middle instead of being, they don't want to be Republicans, but they're leaving the Democrat Party because they're not getting fulfilled, or they are not feel like they are heard, or the promises, especially when we talk about DACA, when we talk about the immigration laws and the status of the migrants here, there's nothing moving. So a lot of discontent too in the Spanish community when it comes to the Democrats. So they say there is a lot of money spent right now. The Republicans are spending to reach this Spanish community that are not happy with the Democrats. But then we're looking at different states too that are overall has big communities of Spanish. California, well, California is different by itself. California is, most of the Spanish, California is a progressive state. But then we're looking at Florida. Oh my God, Florida by itself is its own little country. Then we talk about Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, all these different places where we have Spanish people leaning more. And I think a lot of times it's because of a religious belief too that is conflicted with what the Democrats, and also conflicted with the Republicans, in the sense that the Republicans are pro-life. The Republicans the Republicans doesn't believe that two men should be together. And those are things that in the Spanish community are still strong when it comes to religious beliefs. I think for the newer generation are coming more progressive and more open mind. But I'm looking at Florida, especially Florida and Texas, where overall the Spanish community, there is Spanish people that don't even think they're Spanish, and they are. Yeah. And they vote Republicans. Yeah. And for the life of me, I don't even get that. And
the reasons for voting Republican are diverse. Clearly, those cultural issues have a big sway, and especially if they have a warrior concept of God, they see God as demanding conformity and demanding a certain life pattern. Then that's the more religious they are, believing in that warrior God, the more they're going to be swayed by that perception that the Republican Party is that way. And a lot of that is a perception. It's not necessarily reality. But the only reason why it has the power it has is because the Republicans believe in more of a dictatorship type of approach to governance, whereas the Democrats believe in more of an egalitarian approach to governance. And our country is an experiment in egalitarian leadership. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why this election is huge, is because we're at the precipice of deciding whether we have an egalitarian view of government or a dictatorial view of government.
And
That's huge.
And one of the things that me and you was talking, we was talking about that, because I was thinking like, and we was reading about, we talk about Elaine Cannon, and I read a little bit about her, and then I went up in depth and read a little bit about her. And for people that don't know who she is the judge, the Supreme Judge from Florida that President Trump swore in before, a couple weeks before he left the White House in 2021. So and there was a reason to put her there, you know, and Marco Rubio is the one that kind of suggested to put her in the Supreme Court in Florida. And she's basically doing her job. She's doing what she was put there to do. And I started looking and reading about her, and I told you about her. She was born in Cali, Colombia, and her parents are. Her mom is Cuban. I thought her mom was Colombia, and then her dad is American. And I was thinking, for the life of me, I have my son. My son is fully American. And I was thinking, my views, whatever I believe right now, I'm transmitting those views to my son. My son is learning from me. And I'm thinking like this lady, she's in her 30s, I believe. She's very young. She was born in 1981, 30-something. I'm thinking her views had to come from her mom when she is pushing something that clearly she doesn't know, or her mom doesn't know. I don't know, because her mom came running from a dictatorship.
Yeah.
And now you are helping, to perpetrate that in this country. To the life of me, I don't even get it.
Yeah. Well, it's possible that her father and her mother's views were united, because her father may have been Republican too. She could be getting it from both sides, but certainly the ethnic aspect of it, what you said, makes total sense. What is really bizarre is how your ethnicity, because of the mixture of racism and classism, the Republicans have clearly embraced an idea that some people have more rights to leadership and control than others do, and so there is a very strong element of racism in their position, but there's also an element of classism, because sometimes they do have minorities in their party. And they may be tokens, but they're still minorities, and so sometimes it behaves more like a classism thing. And especially when you hear these ethnic individuals like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, Eileen
Cannon. And I was reading about Ted Cruz. Is interesting. Ted Cruz, his father came from Cuba, running from Cuba. He was fighting with Castro to bring down the Batista regiment, and then he got arrested by El Che Guevara, and then they had money. They had just reading, because his father, and they had money, had a friend that was a lawyer and helping get out of Cuba. and then he came here to the United States with a scholarship or to go to Texas University. But Ted Cruz says, okay, you can give a green card to the illegal immigrants, but God forbid you make them a citizen. It's just crazy. They can live here. They can pay taxes. Give them the green card, but don't make them a citizen, because he knows that overall this 12 million people are gonna go more to the left.
The problem with Ted is not
even Ted. He's not even Ted. He's Rafael.
Okay, yeah, well, Rafael, Ted, he's one of the candidates that is not arguing on principle as much as he's posturing himself. His whole political career is posturing, pretending to be something that he's not. His dad moved to Canada because he time elapsed on his student visa.
So he had to.
Okay? And then he became Canadian, but then he married an American woman so that he could get back to the U.S. and eventually become a U.S. citizen. Then he renounced his Canadian citizenship. You can call that doing it right. But he didn't go to Canada. He was an illegal in Canada. The only difference is Canada doesn't have the same attitude about immigration as
here in the United States.
Cruz is promoting. So he survived it. You go there, you go to Canada, they are willing to read between the lines and help the person out.
But he is advocating everything that his dad took advantage of. He's against that. Oh, the same system and stuff that helped my dad to become a citizen. I don't want these 11 million people to have it. I don't want them to get it. I just gonna get them. Okay, they're here. Let's give them the green card, but that's it. Yeah.
It's all based on a lie. He's living a lie. His father is living a lie.
So why it is that the Texas Spanish community doesn't see this? That's my question. Why it is that they don't see that they are becoming pawns? Why it is that they don't see that they are becoming pawns for one person to hold on into power? Why is your dad came from Cuba running from a dictatorship? You are being part of creating that same system of form a government here. Right. And I don't see, people can't see the lines. I mean, to me, it's okay you don't see it because you don't have that experience. But if somebody's coming from another country running from that, you can see between the lines what's going to happen.
Right.
And these people, like my brother, I don't even get it.
Yeah.
I don't get how you can be, and they use religion too, because my thing with my brother is religion. He feels that these men are advocating for God's word, the word of God, when it comes to abortion, when it comes to the LGBT community, when it comes to all those things, they are in the right side because this is what the Bible says.
Well, and that's because there's a confusion between religion and culture. The idea that those are spiritual values is a perception, not reality. It's a, culture has used religion to sell culture. And he doesn't get that connection that these are cultural issues. You can pretend they're religious so that you have the authority of God to endorse your cultural values, but they're cultural.
And the thing that I don't understand is why it is that God gave us free will and give us the freedom to choose if you guys wants to enforce and this into everyone. Why?
Because the people who believe in a warrior God don't believe in free will. They literally don't believe in free will. They believe in choice to either follow God or not. But they don't believe in free will. Do you understand that?
Yes, but I don't. As you read the Bible and you know the Bible and you know the Word of God, there is free will. And how do they overpass that and say, well, is the Bible said that you should have a child, even though I don't want that child? You have to. When He gave me that free will to choose, is I want to have the child or not? How do you go over that and make it you
the Old Testament? There is a scripture in the Old Testament that promotes the idea that if a child was not born the way God intended, He would commit an abortion on the spot. That's a rather shocking concept.
Well, that's not what happened with him, and that's not what happened with David. And when that he told him that baby is not gonna born. I don't care what you do. You can cry, you can fast, you can do everything you want. That baby is not gonna born. He told him no. You know.
Well, yeah.
And that was settled. He was like, that is not going to born. And after that, Solomon was born. But when it comes to voting, I was thinking of Marco Rubio too. It's just these people are just something else. And we was talking about the thinking, the divide and the disconnect between I was reading about the Cubans too, the ones that came in 1959, 1957, and Rafael Cruz, Ted Cruz dad, he came in 1957. And most of the people that came in that period of time, there was the upper elite class from Cuba. And then the people from the Mariel that came in the 1980s, late 80s and early 90s that I was telling you about my friend. My friend, he came in that era of the Mariel when Castro sent all these people, took them out of the prison and sent them to the United States. So my thing is why it is that there is this disconnection when it comes, and you said something yesterday I was interested. You said because their thinking is, and the upper class, they when they come in here, there's that divide even within.
Right. It's they're
and the upper class, they relate to the Republican Party. Because the immigrants from it, yes,
has set themselves up as the upper party for the upper class. That they've sold that concept. That this.
So we have the immigrants that come from. We have the immigrants that come from other country that have money, and automatically they go ahead and relate to this, even though they were running from their country.
Yeah.
They were running from the country, because of the same thing. And now they are siding with this group of people that are plotting to do what you were running from.
Ted Cruz, his father, when he came to the U.S., okay, he came before Castro, okay, but the only Hispanic community that the Cuban community that he interfaced with were those wealthy ones that were expelled out of Cuba because of the communist takeover.
And this is what I tell people. I tell people a lot of times, right now in Panama, there is a big group of my immigrants that are migrating to Panama from Venezuela. Venezuela and Colombia, and I go to Panama, to the wealthy area of Panama, and all the stores in that area are the owners are from Venezuela.
Yeah.
So what is going on? That the Venezuelan rich people are pulling all their assets, all their money, their riches, and they are migrating to other countries to build their business. So when our country falls, all the rich people are already gone. They are gone 4 years ago. They could see the writing in the wall, and they took their money. And right now, here as we speak, there is American rich people having their money and stuff in other places.
Yeah,
who gets stuck is the poor people.
Yeah, well, plus I saw that in Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong when it was decided that the Hong Kong was going to go back to China. And at the time, the billionaires from Hong Kong were being parceled out to all of the countries of the world, and they were being taken because of their money. And money talks big time. But like in South America, we've got all of those American companies that have that are making big money off of the South American world, and Americans they're aligning with the wealthy there so that they can have more power and they can make more money and all of that. So there is definitely an alliance between money and the upper class in those cultures, and it's those people who are coming to the U.S. are trying to use that alliance to better their community back in the home country, and that bettering concern has nothing to do with the poor. It has to do with the ability to make money. It's the ability to control, the ability to have influence. And if the regime in that country has hurt their community, they want that. We know that in Cuba, they want the Cuban government to suffer until those funds are reestablished.
And one of the things that we talked to was about that you said something very interesting. It was like, because for the life and there is different beliefs in the Cuban community depending on where they act. So as you go to Miami, they definitely believe that the Cuban government or regime needs to be punished in Cuba. Absolutely. We are not going to let them get anything from us while the poor people in Cuba are suffering because you said something that I can't forget. You said, we're going to punish you because of the government and because of you, we lost what we had in Cuba.
Yeah.
So everybody's...
Screw the poor people.
Yes.
We don't care about them. And when those poor people come to the U.S., they're put in a difficult position. Do I align with these wealthy Cubans who are sticking it to the Cuban government?
And to the poor, mainly to the poor people in Cuba. That's what they're doing.
So the poor people in Cuba are screwed. There's nobody to stand up for them.
Yes.
Because once the poor Cubans come to the U.S., they're not only fighting the racists, but they're also fighting the classists as well.
Yes.
And so do you give into the classes so that you can survive racially? And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. They're giving into the classists so that they're not double screwed on the racist front as well. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I'm thinking and you can see that clearly in the Republican Party even today. I'm thinking of the student loans and you see the classism again, but Americans don't see it, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like we go to Mississippi and we go to Alabama, we go to even Texas and we go to Florida. These governors are fighting those loans so that they don't want people that have those loans to take advantage of what President Biden is doing. And for the life of me, I don't even get why would you still vote Republican? Right. And you see the classism again. You see that, and they use it right in your face when they. Who is the one that came out and said, why it is that Tiffany Smiley said that in one of her stuff. She said, yes, why Biden is paying the loans for lawyers and stuff. I'm like, that's not true. That's not true. That's also pinning class. This is a class war when it comes to that student loan too, because they're telling them we should not have to pay for your loan because poor people are the ones that have these loans.
Yeah, well, and that is the master strategy of the Republican Party, is to promote classism by creating class conflict. If you don't support classism, then join us. Pretend you are part of the upper class and join us and stick it to those Democrats for trying to be so egalitarian.
And I had a discussion with a friend. Me and her goes, when it comes to education, we're just so completely opposite poles. And we was talking about that. And she was telling me, she said, I don't know you have to, if you don't pay for your education, then there's no value on your education. I said, you repeating stuff that doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense, so you're telling me that in order for me to value my education, I have to have these loans and pay for it? Because that's the only way I'm going to find value in it?
If that were true, we would have very few educated people in this country. There's almost no individual that has paid for their own education. Almost none. She
was like, I don't think that's right. I don't think that you should get free education because then there's not going to be. I said, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard you say. Oh my God, So is when people value education, whether you pay for it or not. I think even more is I didn't have to pay for my education, I would value it even more. I would value it even more. I work with kids that come into this country, and when they come into this country, they get a free ride because they fill these scholarships, and they value that.
Yeah, it's entitlement that causes you to not value a contribution on your behalf. When you feel like you are entitled to it, and somebody gives it to you, you don't appreciate it because you deserved it. Okay, well,
but that is why
it's the wealthy kids that feel entitled.
But that's the narrative of the Republicans saying
exactly.
That's the narrative of them saying that if you don't pay for it, you feel entitled for then you know.
But the irony of that is that they are in reality throwing their own children under the bus because it's their children that are the entitled ones. It's not the poor people that are entitled. They're mischaracterizing an entire community, and out of our classism, we're buying it hook, line, and sinker.
I was talking about classism when we have immigrants that vote against it. And they come running from that same regiment, and they still go ahead and vote to create the same political environment that they're running from. But I'm thinking of the Americans right here too. When you look at the two parties, there is a big divide in classism. And we look at the ex-president when he and the people that follow him, you can see what is the gun and God people, gun, God, and no gays, and they portray the Democrats as the elite. They think they even when they talk about President Obama, because they've said that he is so in what was the word? There was a word that they used to use with President Obama. And we look at the white rural community that is big on the Republicans, and the Republicans take advantage of that, creating this divide, classism divide between the Democrats and the Republicans. When it comes to, and they talk about the guns and all these different things, because and when you think of guns and you think of white people, you think that normally is these people from the rural area. So it's creating this narrative where you divide the country based on class too.
A huge difference between the Democratic perspective on money and the Republican perspective on money is Democrats, when they are wealthy, they tend to give their money to organizations that spread the wealth. Whereas Republicans, when they give their money to people who support their agenda.
And to build more wealth in spite of whatever. They don't care.
And that's what I mean by their agenda.
Yeah.
They have an agenda to enrich themselves, to keep the control in their group, and they support people and organizations that do that. Republicans have to maintain control of their money even when they give it away.
Yeah, and I was
Democrats don't tend
and
to
I was
do that.
thinking, I remember when Hillary Clinton was running, and I don't remember if President Biden said this, but they talked to the people from Virginia where they have the coal mines and these people from Detroit with the car industry, and 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 telling them we're gonna bring back those jobs. I know, and I remember President Trump saying he's gonna bring those jobs back to have these white middle class rural community still hooked with them. That in reality you don't want those jobs back. I would be screaming to the TV, no, we don't want those jobs back. We don't need those kind of jobs. And you will see people stuck.
Yeah, and even if they brought those jobs back, the people who have the attitude about the loss of those jobs, they have already been hurt, and they're not going to benefit from bringing those jobs back. It's probably going to be minorities that benefit from those jobs, but then they're also going to be hurt by the health effects of those jobs as well, which is why they went away in the first place.
So we're talking about Joe Manchin, when they talk about the coal mine and stuff like that. They still don't want this industry needs to go away and start having people think differently about different types of job. Even though, like, and for the life of me, still I don't like. I talk to people about the electric cars, and I don't think the gasoline is gonna go down that much, because one way or another we have to start setting our minds to think differently when we think about energy. We have to find a different way of getting our energy. And maybe it has to hit us in our pocket to start thinking. I'm seeing more electric cars out here when I drive around. I'm seeing a lot more electric cars. I had my neighbor, he got a Volk electric. He had one before that, and he went and got another one, a Chevy. And he said he went to Portland and just had to charge his car, and it just cost him $3 to go back and forth from Portland.
Yeah.
You know, so these politicians keep promising and telling them we're bringing back these jobs, instead of telling them, no, we're not bringing back these jobs. We have to start thinking other ways of creating energy and other type of jobs that we need to, solar panels, make them more affordable, make more, have the different industries of cars, making cars, electric cars, affordable. And people say, well, no, it can't be. Yes, it can be. We are, and we claim to be the most powerful country in the world. And they have other countries that are right now 60%, 40% of the people that drive in the car are electric car. We have the oil industry has their feet on our neck, the elbow on our neck that's saying no.
Yeah. Well, plus you've got the fact that the Republican Party pretty much owns the petroleum industry. Those that head up the petroleum industry are overwhelmingly Republican, and we have, that our retired military, they are not supposed. It's the emolument clause in the Constitution that protects, requires our politicians not be able to financially gain from the politics. Okay, the same is true of our retired military, and we have more than 500 retired generals that have broken that law and work for the oil industry in the Arab world, and nobody ever talks about that.
And they have the contract because they get some contracts overseas and make a bunch of money. Yeah.
I mean, we know about. Is it Kelly that the general that worked for the Russians. Only because it came out. But we never hear about all of those oil-rich ex-military, retired military that are doing the very same thing there.
So,
and then they raise an issue about Biden Jr.
Oh well, we talking about what's Hunter
Biden, yeah.
Hunter Biden. Well, this is just a gimmick that they throw out there because ex-president Trump, he always take the blame and put it somewhere else, and I don't know, people fall for it. I mean, whatever Hunter Biden did or not, it actually is what everybody in that environment does. They did just take advantage of they take advantage of the how do you call
the connection to power.
Connection to power, and that you are,
and regardless of what he did or didn't do, that's not illegal for him. He did not choose to be the son of a politician. He doesn't have that responsibility. And his dad, as far as every indication seems to be, did not encourage it either.
I mean, he's a grown man, but when I'm trying, I don't know. I think there has to be. And you said rules that are not enforced. There's rules that are not enforced because they're there, but they're not enforced. And we talking about a environment where we don't see how the politicians pin the poor people against the other poor people. And I don't think they see, and we are already privilege. I wanted to say that word. He was born with privilege. He was born with privilege because he's white, because he's male, because his dad is in politics, and he's taking advantage of that. That's it. And like you said, he had those privilege when he was born. Right. So, but using the white privilege and pinning it against the rest of us, this is what the Republicans are doing, saying, whatever they have is because they taken it. And we are, as white, we are born privileged to have that. You shouldn't be taking advantage of that or enjoying those resources or whatever you're fighting for. And again, we go back to that classism, where it's not rich white people against rich black people, Spanish people. Is black, color, brown, poor people against white, poor people. And this is what the politicians are doing.
Right. I think the big issue to me is embracing the self-definition of being a victim. The Republicans have caught on to that issue and are using it and manipulating it to sell their brand. So they're getting a lot of minorities to say, reminding minorities that they, as long as they see themselves as a victim, they're not going to move forward. So they're selling the idea that if you embrace us, then you cease to be a victim. Well, that's not true. Okay. When the system is rigged, it doesn't matter how you see yourself, it's still rigged. So we need to fix the system, but not see ourselves as victims. There's a
but that's not what they do. But that's not what they're doing with the white poor people too. They're making them feel like you're the victim. You are a victim. You because of these people, you are where you are.
It's the minorities that are victimizing you. That's what the poor white are being told, not the wealthy white people. In reality, it's the wealthy white.
Yes.
Reality,
and the wealthy white people are the ones that are telling you that.
Exactly. It's all about deflecting.
Yes,
attention.
They're telling you that. You know.
Racism and classism
is entwined.
But the problem is when you use them to manipulate people as well. And Republicans are doing brilliantly. They are using both of those concepts when they are useful for their agenda, and pretending they don't exist when. So
how my question? Maybe you don't have the answer. How do we start changing that? How do we having conversations like this? How do we start looking at people that, and I always like to say that at the end of the day, I want the same thing that you want. I want to take care of my family. I want to have a good life. I want as you as a white male in this country, and me as an Afro-Latina woman, Black woman, we want the same things. So how do you make people believe and think, okay, this is, I don't want anything. I'm not taking anything from you. I just want whatever sources are there and I work for to just want what you want too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the basic thing is don't go looking for saviors because they don't exist. Mm. Okay, when you think you can latch onto a Messiah
that is
solve all your problems. He's not. He's enriching himself. You are being used by him to help promote him.
By him and the whole party. And now I'm thinking they needed someone to put there in front, because it's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is just the center of the Republican Party.
Exactly.
They just needed to put somebody there that they could worship, and that's it. But in reality, this has been there for a long time. Mm-hmm. So how do we change and make people think I'm not your enemy? I'm not against you. I'm here wanting and working for the same thing you want for your family.
Yeah. We have to fight systemic racism and classism. Okay? And we have to understand it and dismantle it. Okay? But we can never allow ourselves to use those as an excuse not to move forward. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
We can't continue to blame racism and classism for not making the best of the situation, because racism and classism doesn't prevent anything. It just makes it a lot harder.
But you don't think there is things in place that are invisible for people of color that was created as the obstacles. Like you said, we just have to. Is that have to work and walk? I walk 2 miles.
Yeah.
You probably just have to walk 1. But I still can get there with the 2 miles. It's just that I just have to work harder than you to do that.
Right. It's there are glass ceilings. I don't disagree with that at all. Mm-hmm. But those glass ceilings can be shattered.
And I think
it might require a groundswell underneath us.
And I think. I think
But-
President Biden has done a really good job too. When I think his administration has a reflection of who we are as the United States of America. I like the fact that there is a little bit of everything in his administration, running his administration. We have Black women, we have people of the LGBT community, we have indigenous people, we have the first in Alaska. I think she won, right? So he has done a good job, I think. You know, there is a lot more to do, but I think he has done a really good job. I know don't have a lot of time, so what would you like to tell people and leave people with in this conversation of classism and racism that is very entwined? They're almost alike.
Yes.
They're almost twins right there, like they're twins.
Right. Don't leave the critical thinking to somebody else.
I like
You
that.
got to do it yourself.
I like that.
When something is too good to be true, it's probably not true. And when it comes to racism and classism, look for the systemic issues and go after those.
So I wanted to thank you, Pastor Dennis. Thank you for sitting here with me and talking about this. That is a lot. It's a lot. I was reading, and there is a lot. So one of the things I want to encourage everyone to go out and vote. The 8th of November, we have voting. Please go out and vote. This is very, very important. The midterms, I think, are even more important than the presidential terms. It decides where your kids are going to go to school, the water that you're going to drink, what kind of water. Mississippi, we're talking about the air, gasoline. We're talking about what else? We're talking about taxes that you're paying. We're talking about minimum wage. All of those things. Your healthcare is decided by going out and vote. Please go out and vote. Thank you. You guys have a nice day, and I see you later, Pastor Dennis. Yes, Siembra. Thank you. Que tengan un bonito día. Yes, yes. Where is? I think we go this way. Yes. I think Christian Lopez Moreno went to sleep. What are you? Se apagó. ¿Dónde está? ¿Dónde se apaga?